Yo. What's up, y'all? And welcome to this week's edition of Cheap Pop Podcast. Sorry about that. Got a little frog stuck in my throat there. Had to get him out. A little ribbit. Let's see. This week is a special week in a lot of ways, but holla, it's Black History Month. Let's go. Let's roll. Hopefully within this next month, we're gonna, like I said, have on Jamil Hemphill, pro wrestler, comic book artist, comic book writer, comic book company owner, friend of the show. He's been on before, but we're gonna do a YouTube thing with him as well for his induction into the California Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. Let's see. All right, so we stopped short last week. On the second half of the show of talking about Korra, Legend of Korra.
About 2.5 months in the making now, right?
Yeah, right. We started talking about this like in November of last year, but when I was actually watching Korra, so I actually had to be reminded who the bad guy was in this one, or the bad person, because that's the one thing I liked about Korra in general, was that a lot of her characters were ambiguous in the sense of they were villains, but were they really villains? Like Amos, like all he wanted was a fair and balanced society.
Amos?
Huh?
Amos?
Did I just call him Amos? What is his name?
You called him Amos.
I told you it's been a long time. It's been a long time, and I'm an old man.
AJ Styles.
No, that's Omos. That's Omos.
No, it was changed. No, it was switched. It was switched. Oh man.
But yeah, each villain.
Amon.
Sorry.
You're for a few letters off. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, but each villain had like this likable, or not likable, but understandable mission. Meaning, like, it's not like I'm saying like, yeah, I would handle things the way they did. It's kind of like I go back to the example I go to all the time, which is Thanos. Thanos was a likable villain. Like his overall.
I wouldn't say likable, but I think the term would be sympathetic.
Sympathetic. Okay, that would be a better term. You're right. But I say
the fucking tits, right?
but I just to me, like, I understood where Thanos was coming from. I wouldn't have necessarily gone about it the way he did, but I understood where he was coming from. He's like, wait, there's way too many motherfucking people, and we ain't got enough shit for all this, so we need to get rid of like half. And tried to make that happen. Like I said, wouldn't have gone about it the way he did it, but at the end of the day, I understood where he was coming from, and there's some of that in these villains in Legend of Korra for me. I understood where they were coming from. I considered them bad guys, but I didn't really consider them. I consider they're bad guys because of their method, not because of their mission. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. When I talk about the D&D alignment chart, I use a similar sort of ideology. When people think like it's too complex, I look at it and it's like, look, up and down are your goals. Left and right are what you're willing to do to achieve those goals.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
You know that. I agree. I've talked about it a little bit, but I don't know if I fully delved into it. I probably haven't, mostly because we didn't get to talk about all the villains. But now that we're at this point that I can say that looking around in the community, talking about Korra, you have an understanding that everyone sees pretty clearly that each of the antagonists for each season, although is a little less impactful than having one villain through the whole series, much like Avatar.
Right.
Much like the first series, right? Korra has these different antagonists, all with really pure goals, I guess you could say, but taking them to the nth degree and taking them to way too far of a point.
To the extreme, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Amon, you're right, came from the idea of wanting benders and non-benders to be completely balanced. Yeah. In a world where it's very clear that benders have this amazing power, whereas non-benders are almost treated like weaklings, even the ones that are more physically imposing. Mm-hmm. And that those are examples of that everywhere in both shows. So you could see Amon comes from a place of humiliation and frustration. And you have the second season, where her uncle literally just wants to bridge the spirit world and the human world indefinitely, but he does it via raising Spirit of chaos and destruction, right?
Yeah, pure evil. Like,
and then going forward, you have Kuvira, who is hell bent on making sure that the Earth Kingdom isn't shit. It's not poorly led. Her goals extend to, I want the Earth Kingdom to prosper like it should. But then she does that by ruling the fucking world with a giant mech.
Yeah. Yeah, that thing was pretty cool though. Like, if I could ride one of those, that'd be kind of dope, man. That thing looked like something out of Gundam. But
you can call me an old head for it, but I see it, and every time in the back of my head is just like Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Shoot, you want to go old school, you got to talk Macross Plus to me, baby.
Oh, even further.
Oh man, yeah, before Rick Hunter and the boys, but anyway, but yeah, like not only was Korra, when I say a likable character, I mean just as a character, she developed properly. Unfortunately for me, and this is why I say the problem was with me, not the writing or Korra, the story itself. I wanted to see a development kind of similar to Aang. And she developed in a completely different way than Aang. They both led to the same goals of learning how to become the Avatar and learning how to become this being that can find balance in the world.
Bring everyone together and so
yeah.
on. Right.
You know, but she developed in her own way, very much so. Like there was not a lot of childish, like, I think I said it best when we first started. Korra started talking about this. Korra was definitely not made for the same age range that Avatar originally was. And what I mean by that is this: whether it be older, like people in their 20s, or older kids in their late or early to mid-teens, I think Avatar was made for between the 10 to 13-year-old range originally. It just happens to appeal because of the overall how do you say, the messages that it sends. It happens to appeal to an older audience. But I say that it was aimed initially when it was made at about 9, 10, like early teens, late 8, 9, 10 years old kids. It just had themes that could apply to everybody and everybody understood it.
Yeah.
Whereas Korra definitely had more adult themes to me, from her feelings, the whole thing between her and, damn it, I can't remember the firebender's name, Marco, and just the relationship between her and or Mako, or was it Marco? Mako. Yeah. And then the relationship between her and his girlfriend, which never really came to fruition, but we all kind of knew was there.
Yeah. Very well known.
You know, yeah, like it just had more adult themes to it. I respected that because I looked at it like this. This is what you're giving us after Avatar: The Last Airbender. So if you're looking to appeal to the same crowd as was Avatar, you now have to appeal to an older crowd, because Avatar took 4, 5, 6 seasons or 3 seasons, sorry, to come out. So now you're dealing with kids that were 9, 10, 11 that are now 12, 13, 14. And so it dealt with a little bit more of an adult theme. And I enjoyed that about Korra. It was definitely growth by the writers and by the people who wrote the show for the nation as a whole, so to speak.
It's not something that is very it's not very in your face and grotesque about the way it goes about it either. It does it in very subtle and very human ways. The image of Amon and his brother committing suicide together is forever etched into my mind. 100%, because I don't think anyone expected that shit. And like, everyone knows that something like that has been possible in that universe, but nobody thought that they would go for that shit. And remember, that's season 1.
Yeah, that's shit.
Season 1 ends with, "Don't worry, brother. Zap, dead."
Dead.
It delve into some pretty darker tones, yeah. But
definitely.
and that does again, like we talk about it in tandem with the Star Wars movies and other things of different bridging franchises like this. You have to hold them to different standards from each other.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be unfair to hold Avatar to Korra standards or Korra to Avatar standards.
Exactly.
And the way that you can look at it is, these are different stories from different points of their lives.
Mm-hmm.
And you could say that Aang did the most of his growing as an Avatar in his adolescence and walking into becoming only a teenager, not even a young adult, I would say.
Yeah.
Whereas Korra, on the other hand, did the bulk of her learning and experience as an Avatar after the age of like 15, 16, right?
Yeah.
And so you have
she
to hold
became
them
an adult.
Yeah, you have to hold them in different regard of how those experiences are going to be depending on that too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think you're right. I agree. It uses them well. It does them subtly, and they're not very in your note. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're not obnoxious.
It's not snapping you in the face with it, so to speak.
Yeah.
And the other thing, the side characters, even though I feel that this is one thing I would have to give a very little, the side characters in Korra were developed a little bit more than what I saw over the 3 seasons of Avatar. Like, you saw a lot of growth in the brothers. You saw a lot of growth in characters like Tenzin, and of course you saw literal growth in the kids, as you went from season 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. But
years in every.
Right. But you saw growth in the side characters more so than, or at the same time that you're witnessing this growth in Korra herself. And how to an extent she had to learn to become the Avatar, because as much as she thought that being the Avatar just meant being able to control and being able to master all 4 bending arts, it's a lot more than that. It's learning how to actual keep
way deeper than that. Right.
Yeah, you really got to learn how to keep balance within the world, and so I think that journey made sense, because for Aang, it was just more so a battle of him finding people that could actually teach him, and then just be him becoming this badass at the end, and really without really wanting to become that badass, but became this badass, and did his thing. But Korra
Aang resorted to violence from the beginning as a last resort, as a last bullet in the chamber sort of thing. Whereas it started the opposite. Korra began with, fuck that, I'm going to punch everything.
And also, so I now have a top 2 favorite lines from the series, number 1 and 2. Number 1 is very simple, comes from season 1. It's when they come to discover, when they tell the story of discovering her as the Avatar, and she comes busting through the door as baby Korra. I'm the Avatar, and you got to deal with it, and just starts flaming and water and everything else all over the place. That's my favorite line. But then after watching season 4, my second favorite line in 1B is now, Julie, will you do the thing with me? That is just the most awesome line ever. Now you got to really watch the series to understand the context of it, but it's a great line. Like, the more and more I think about it, it's just an amazing line.
I'm gonna be I'm glad you brought that up, actually, because throughout the entirety of season 4, I don't know about you, but in the beginning, I wasn't too big of a fan of Varric. It wasn't that I hated him, but it wasn't really like, it was like, you're kind of a trope, you're a cliche sort of thing. And I got that same feel from the Prince of the Earth Kingdom. Right. Forget his name, but the Prince of the Earth Kingdom.
Oh God, I know who you're talking about, but I can't remember his name. Is the little wimpy dude?
Yeah. But those 2 characters for me weren't really entertaining or did anything special for me in the beginning when they were introduced. By the end of season 4, they all genuinely were enjoyable characters, especially among Varric, because of scenes like that. And I don't think anyone expected that sort of character arc. Like, you might have expected for him to go in the opposite direction, but not like
exactly. Like, Varric went from being like literally one of the most hateable characters in the show to being the dude that you were kind of rooting for.
Yeah, right.
And you got to have one of those, but I agree with you. Come see, if you'd asked me season 1 if that was going to be Varric, I'd have probably told you hell no. Hell no, that's not going to be Varric. Like, that dude's just a douche. But he was the dude that made that turnaround and became that dude. And the Prince had his moments too, later on. But at the end of the day, the two that not necessarily surprised me that I enjoyed the most or is Toph's entire family. From her on down to her daughters, on down to her granddaughter. Just Toph's whole family is just some of my favorite characters in the entire show. They have some of the greatest moments.
Yeah, it doesn't get much better than like Zuko being as active as he is, still being a Fire Lord with a fucking dragon now, and then who is literally at the final part of the show, at the most climactic part, literally like, I'm gonna stay here. Like, why? I'm tired. You go forward, man. It's your guys' turn. Forest, bro. It's the best part.
Chill.
Whereas, like, you have the duality of characters like Yoda. Toph just straight up didn't want to be bothered. Had no drive to help. It's great. I like the whole character arc of her and her daughters, obviously. It was really organic and nice to see.
And so at the end of the day, I give the entire series an A. I gave Avatar an A+ because those last 2 episodes just kind of pounded home everything about the series. I didn't really get that with the final episodes of Korra. I kind of felt like I was just kind of dropped off a cliff. Like, okay, series is over.
I was going to say, let's get into some negatives. We have some real good positives. Let's talk about some negatives, not just for the season, for the whole series. I think.
For the whole series, not enough of Tenzin's boy. Sorry. Just think we did, especially when he was going through that whole arc about falling in love, and he found that girl when they were out patrolling, and he ran into that girl and gave her the rose. I wanted to see more of that. Like, and this is just, I know this sounds like a patty cake, him negative, but it was for me. Like, I wanted to see more of him. Like, he was a funny character. He was awesome. I think that. I think the ending just left me flat. And what I mean by that is not that there wasn't this spectacular ending, but we got a spectacular fight at the end of season 1, and again at the end of season 2, and they get the end. And at the end of this one, we got another spectacular fight, but this one just didn't. I can't really describe it in depth without going back and rewatching it. But I just know at the end of it, I didn't feel as fulfilled as I did when I watched the ending to Avatar: The Last Airbender. And I know, like we said earlier, you can't necessarily compare them directly with each other, but it's just I didn't get that. Okay, I feel like I've come to the end of the line. Like, this is the end of this story. Like, I just didn't.
Yeah, no. I feel it. Without getting too much into my own feelings after the end of season 4, both me and my girlfriend sort of sat there like, that was pretty anticlimactic, wasn't it? But go ahead and keep going, keep rolling.
No, and you hate to say that because there was a lot of good throughout Korra, as we just discussed, but at the end it just left me wanting. And I would say this: a 4th season of Avatar that shows kind of what happened between the events that we know happened in Korra and the end of Avatar Air season 3. I would want that
when they die.
Right. And then give me a 5th season of Korra, like where she finally has everything under control. They're cool, maybe they face one last big threat together, but give me some closure on all fronts with that one. And I think an extra season of both would be well served.
Probably.
Where, I don't know, maybe Disney Plus. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel it. For me, I agree. Going off of what you would say, yeah. I wish there was a better ending. And for me, I'm just gonna, without just sitting here and critiquing, I would say honestly, Zahir should have been the villain again for season 4, even if it was just Zahir alone. I think he had such a massive effect on her character after that point.
He was the one that poisoned her, right?
He was the one that poisoned her.
Yeah.
He should have straight up just been the villain again, and it should have been impounding that this power that Zahir now has should have been locked away for a long time, because now he's straight up God and finger fucking broken. Zahir was such a solid villain, and season 3 for me was so fucking solid because Zahir and his gang were so cool. Zahir specifically being as in depth as it was.
As he was, yeah.
We've talked about it on the show when we reviewed season 3. I think that Zahir at the end of season 3, when Pai Li died, his girlfriend. Remember, he kept saying from Guru Lahima, was it right? I think. Yeah, it was him, and he kept reciting what he had said about the whole notion of flying, and he kept saying, "Let go your earthly tether, become one with nothing." Right, and then right after Pai Li dies, he's able to unlock that. Because it wasn't a metaphysical thing, it was an emotional thing. Pai Li represented his literal only emotional tether to the world, what he considered to be his only family,
right?
And so that's how he unlocks that. And obviously that goes against the duality of the whole show, being take power in your friends, in your family, and the Avatar gang.
Right. Right. I mean, you can find it in yourself.
Right. But I'm going to bridge that into what I'm saying next. Kuvira wasn't a horrible villain, but I think they should just ran with Zahir. Yeah. Going into the next thing from that, though, the Avatar gang didn't feel like the Avatar gang. I don't mean like they didn't feel like they did in the Avatar. I mean, they didn't really feel like a cohesive group of friends.
Yeah, no, and they weren't.
And they had a lot of good times together, and it's good that they got along.
Exactly.
But I mean, Avatar gang pretty much spend almost every minute of the show together.
They travel together,
together, sleeping near each other, doing pretty much everything together, save for only a select few episodes where they were reduced to certain characters. Whereas Korra takes the individual thing, I think, a little too far for me.
Sorry, y'all. Just so y'all understand, I got NBA 2K21 going on the TV, and I don't play my games with the Warriors. I just let the computer play itself. And it's Steph Curry scored 74 points in my last game. Yeah, they made Steph Curry like ridiculously good. Like we are 33-1. Like anyway, but go ahead.
Oh damn! I lost my.
Sorry, I threw you off with
my. No worries though. But yeah, they didn't really feel like a cohesive group of friends a lot of the time, especially as it came down to the final 2 seasons. They started to split up even more and more, and I know that's something that they were aware of because season 4, they're all literally like, "I haven't seen you guys for years."
Right.
They addressed that, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it was a good stroke of the writing. I think it definitely worked in a negative on their part. I think skipping that amount of time with no contact between them made me it feel like there was a lot of momentum that was lost with that.
To an extent, it helps explain the clunkiness, though, of them in the final episodes. You know what I'm saying? They're trying to come together to fight this one last battle, and there's this clunkiness to them because they haven't been around each other for decades. Yeah,
and that's one way of using it as a writing device. I'm not going to say that it isn't a writing device, and it isn't something they use, and they're aware of it.
No, yeah.
But am I saying, was it a good one?
No, no, and I can agree with you 100% on that one.
I feel it, yeah. But all in all, I agree. It was a good show, but save for things like that were just small disconnects. The add-ons to the list of bending through this show was fucking awesome. Things like metal bending and lava bending being expanded on. lightning bending and things like that. And all that crazy shit being expanded upon is really awesome.
Yeah, very much so.
And I do wish, as one last thought, I wish that they banked on. Wow, I'm blanking on her name.
Describe the character.
Sokka's sister.
Who?
Sokka's sister.
Katara?
Katara.
It's okay.
I blanked so hard. No, yeah, I wish they banked on older Katara a little bit more and not like leaned on it. But I mean, I wish they used her in the story more.
It almost seemed like they tried their best to keep the original Avatar characters out of this show as much as possible. Like if you really look at how it's written, like they did, like Aang is dead, you know, which obviously is why we have a new Avatar. Aang's long dead. Zuko you don't really see until I think midway through season 1. Katara, you like you said, you see spottedly throughout the series. Toph is really the only one that plays any like major role from the first team Avatar in the entire series, and I wonder if that was done on purpose.
Yeah, it almost does seem like they wanted to remove themselves from that as much as possible, right?
Yeah.
Oh wait, one final thing, even.
Yeah.
They didn't like going off what you said. There was something that I was super invested in that I thought was awesome that they completely left hanging.
What's that?
No context, and that's when all those times that Korra was in the spirit world, and she talked with Iroh, you know.
Yeah.
And when she's talking with Zuko, and she's like, "Yeah, I met your uncle Iroh," and then Zuko's like, "You met my uncle?" And he's like, completely fucking like,
what?
Flabbergasting, shocked,
Yeah.
right? And then obviously right after that is when she gets pulled away. I remember vividly, but it's like that would have been such a cool thread to run with. You had something really good there, and they did
nothing with it
in any way, shape, or form. It was pretty disappointing. So I get what you mean there in the way that they put up a lot of things that had really great potential, but didn't really follow through with them.
Left us wanting.
Yeah.
All right, so love set Legend of Korra, but we're gonna jump on over to something I've been waiting to talk about all week. Well, actually not all week, since Friday morning.
Since Friday.
When I watched it. And that is WandaVision episode 5. My brother. This show is going to be what Iron Man was to the MCU. 5 years from now, we're going to look back and be like, damn, WandaVision kicked this shit all off.
Yeah, I think so.
This episode had so many little moments and little things. Have you watched the episode? Yeah.
I'm gonna keep it real with you. I haven't, but right. I've already read the synopsis.
So it's okay.
Like 3 days ago.
We come into what feels like about like 1970s, 1980s, Westview. Just to hit on the key moments, and spoiler alert for those of you who want to skip past this so that you don't, if you haven't watched the episode yet. I know my boy here doesn't worry much about spoilers. So you get a moment where they start to figure out some stuff. Where first thing I'll touch on is the fact that you kind of start to figure out that there's some animosity between Captain Marvel and Monica Rambeau. Because Monica is asked, like, they're trying to talk about Scarlet Witch, and they're like, yeah, her she's pretty powerful, and Monica Rambeau's like, yeah, she almost took down Thanos by herself until he rained down fire on her. She's probably the strongest Avenger, right? And then Jimmy Choo goes, he turns around and he goes, what about Captain Marvel? And Monica Rambeau goes, I don't want to talk about her. We talking about Wanda Maximoff now. It just walks off, and I was like,
I want to talk about that.
There was another
A++.
Exactly. But it's just one of those episodes that kind of opens everything up. You have this scene where they send in an older, they see that she's like in the 80s, and they see that she only changes things as their need be. Like, for instance, if you saw the episode where Monica Rambeau gets sucked into Westview, she's wearing a Kevlar vest. And then she does some tests on the pants that she came out when she blew her out of the Westview, the pants she was wearing from the 1970s set, and those pants were made of the Kevlar vest she was wearing when she went in there. So Wanda was basically just taking like things that were already there and just changing them into what she needed them to do it. You start to have the fact that in this episode revealed that Vision is starting to realize that that Wanda's like done some right? Like what the fuck, like basically okay, there's a scene where Sword sends an email in and Vision kind of gets it while he's at work and he's working on his old computer and he's like, what the hell? And then like he walks up to his coworker and he taps him on his temples. He's like, zzz. And all of a sudden the dude's like, oh my God, she's got me in so much pain. And he starts freaking out. He's like, where's my cell phone? I have to call my family. I have a family. Oh my God, my daughter. And then he's like, dude starts hella freaking out and Vision's just like, and then taps him on the head again and dude goes back to being like hella up and he starts realizing exactly what's going on. And now mind you, this I told Saint, I would mention this on the show as literally my favorite scene in WandaVision episode 5. When you watch it, you'll see what I'm talking about, why it's such a tight scene. There's a scene where the boys, her twins, who are now like 5 and 6 years old, have a puppy, right, that they found. And they want to keep the puppy. And then Vision goes, well, boys, I don't know. He goes, no, I don't think you're not ready yet. You can have a puppy when you turn 10, right? The boys stand there and they go, oh, they look at each other, they smile, and all of a sudden they age up to 2 10-year-olds. And Wanda's like, boys, don't do that. Don't. You know, I was just like, that's just so cool. Oh, we're not old enough, Pops? Check this out. But
instant get bug. That's so good.
It's such a great thing though. Like it's just such a great angle that they do it. And it did cause me to do some research on who Timmy and Tommy Maximoff are. And they are superheroes that go by the names of Wiccan and Speed. Wiccan, I believe, is Timmy Maximoff, and he has Scarlet Witch's power. And then Tommy is Speed, who has Pietro Maximoff's powers. Yeah. So they basically have the same powers as her and her brother. They're called Wiccan and Speed, but that's who those boys are eventually going to become, because they were saying the kids are real. Like the kids aren't a part of Wanda's twisting reality shit. But I guess evidently all of her neighbors and everybody are people from Westview that are trapped in there, and she's mentally controlling them and forcing them to be a part of this whole thing. Yep.
Yeah.
But at the end,
so it's literal House of M style. Okay.
Right. At the end,
style, she's literally so powerful. She's changed reality again.
Now they're thinking that this is our first look into the multiverse, because her and Vision are having an argument. Basically, this is where Vision's confronting her about what the hell's going on, and Vision's confronting her, and they have this moment where they're sitting there, and all of a sudden the doorbell rings, and it's the middle of the night, and they're like, "Who?" And they open the door, right? They show them from behind first, and then they flip around, and it's none other than star of X-Men Days of Future Past and X-Men Dark Phoenix, Evan Peters, as Pietro Maximoff, otherwise known as Quicksilver.
Oh, fuck.
Right?
No way.
And he's like, hey sis, can a brother come by and get a hug? And she's like,
oh no.
Pietro? And I was just like,
oh fuck.
So I'm going to get into something real quick. My boy Jamil has this theory, and it's based on the comic books, that basically this is the reason why they use Evans as the actor to play him instead of using the other guy from Kick-Ass that they killed off in Age of Ultron. Because you remember, this universe did die. They brought him back as Peters is because he's probably supposed to be Pietro Maximoff from Days of Future Past that's been ripped from his timeline and brought here because she misses her brother so much.
Yeah.
Makes sense. And I was just like, and on top of that, remember, they said they don't really have to worry about the sister in that universe because they never even mentioned Scarlet Witch. In that universe. And they never mentioned whether or not Magneto had another kid or not.
Well, they're always together. She just wasn't brought up at all.
Right.
So that does give you the idea that maybe in that universe we have a Pietro without a Wanda.
Right.
We're in this universe with a Wanda without a Pietro. So.
Right. So right, exactly. So and also how they get their powers is completely different because one's a mutant and the other one got their powers through the experimentation with Hydra and the Mind Stone.
Wait, are Quicksilver and Wanda?
Well, and yes, in the MCU, remember in the MCU, they got their powers from the.
I thought you meant in canon. I was going to say, hold up, let me stop you there.
No. In the MCU, they got their powers through the experimentation with Hydra and the Mind Stone. In the X-Men universe, they were just mutants. Like in the X-Men universe, he was Magneto's kid, right? So it was just funny, but it was a great way to end it. Literally, there's nothing more to be told off of it because that was the end of the episode. So we have to wait until this upcoming Friday to find out what's going to happen with the new Pietro and whatchamacallit. But it has also.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
Oh no, it was also confirmed in this episode that yes, that is basically Vision's reanimated dead body. That Wanda actually went to where Sword had his body and took it, basically bodied the entire building full of people and took it.
And resuscitated his fucking corpse.
So
that's sensible. I see.
And he actually mentioned something during their argument about he doesn't remember anything prior to being in Westview.
So fucking that's so bad. That's so cool.
So yeah, this shit's getting interesting. We got 4 episodes left in this season. We're talking about potentially doing something very special for y'all for the end of the season. So keep an eye out.
Let me get your thoughts in, and then we'll roll into what we think this could mean.
Okay.
So again, I've reiterated it a few times, but again, Scarlet Witch is really fucking powerful. Like, really fucking powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean it, even when compared to Miss Marvel, she is way more powerful. In comic book canon, she is capable of becoming an Omega level mutant in most fucking universes, and is 100% responsible for the House of M storyline, which revolves around her changing reality to the pretty much pure benefit of her brother and Magneto. She's really fucking powerful. And if I'm not mistaken, I might be wrong here, but I'm pretty sure this is correct. But Quicksilver, how his speed works, do you know how it works?
No, not 100%.
Okay, so you might think that it is just like a cool visual, the way that they did it in the X-Men movies.
Yeah,
but the way that Quicksilver runs there is way more accurate than a depiction of the way the Flash runs. The Flash runs because he is so powered by the Speed Force that he can run at Mach fucking speeds and break reality, right? And everyone compares him to Quicksilver, but I don't think that's right because Quicksilver is a mutant. Right. And so his power is that his speed allows him to make him, A, go faster, but B, makes everything around him much fucking slower, which gives him the literal physical and illusional effect that he is like twice as fast as he really fucking is because he's also slowing everything around him.
Damn. Okay.
And so again, that's just to give you an idea of how fucking powerful Magneto's kids are. Both of them, right?
Yeah.
This opens so many things, and it opens so many doors, and I can't wait to go and see this episode, and obviously to see through what we might have planned here, because I think you're right in the way that this is going to be the big stepping stone for a lot of things going forward. And the cool thing about this is, in reality, do we know where this is even at in the timeline yet?
Immediately after Endgame.
For sure.
That's what I was told. Like when WandaVision picks up immediately after Endgame. So basically, if that's true, if that's true, this is where it sits kind of off with me. If that's true, then that means, or maybe this is right after Infinity War, because it would make more sense if it was right after Infinity War, because Vision would have just died, but
she was around for Endgame, though.
Huh?
She was around for Endgame, though, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was.
Here's what I'm thinking. Because look, then
so she waits.
It kind of gets a little bit fuddled where this lies, then, right?
Yeah, because she so she waited 6 years to go take Vision's body,
and then resuscitate it, and it's like, since it's right?
Exactly. So like, I don't know. Like, was she blipped? I forget. As far as I remember, no, she didn't blip.
She was not blipped. Was she blipped?
I don't think so.
No, she wasn't. She wasn't fucking dusted. She wasn't.
No, so there wouldn't have been that 5 years lost. Like if she would have been dusted and then brought back, I could understand that. Like then it would make sense. Okay, she was gone for 5 years. That's why it took her so long to come back and get Vision, and all that.
All Ant-Man in negatives, right?
Right. But right now it just doesn't make any sense.
So here's what I'm thinking. Okay. So we don't quite know where this lies yet, then, and even if we do, it could be a little more ambiguous than we think. So I have two theories going forward. Okay. And we'll go one after another. But obviously, one, you brought it up, but this could be an immediate connection to Doctor Strange and his whole multiverse fuckery going
madness,
on. Coming on within like how many months now, right? So that's coming along, and that could easily be bridged into that in many ways very fucking well. Right. This could be before or after that, and Doctor Strange could have easily portaled a motherfucker there for her. Because if I'm being honest here, if anyone is deserving of a happy ending, it's Wanda, considering how much shit she went through, right?
Right.
But in terms of being connected to the multiverse and Doctor Strange, what do you think?
Well,
what do you have in mind?
Well, I'll say it like this. All right, first I'm going to pull up and I'm going to bring up the list of the upcoming movies, because it really does matter to your theory.
Yeah.
We have a Spider-Man 3 coming up before we get to Doctor Strange. We also have now here's the thing with it. Black Widow is a prequel.
Black Widow is a prequel. It is.
Right. So Black Widow takes place, I believe, even before Avengers. Okay. The first Avengers movies. Shang-Chi will be introducing themselves into this thing, but I have yet to hear where the whatchamacallit is going to be on that. Mm-hmm. Okay. Eternals will begin to set up a lot of what's going to happen, but not from an on Earth type perspective.
Okay, of course. Obviously, if you don't know about the Eternals, Galactus is an Eternal, if I'm not mistaken. The ever-present beings that eat fucking planets.
Exactly. Now, the Spider-Man movie is where everything is going to kick off. Now, let's talk a little bit about what we already know about that Spider-Man movie. We pretty much already know for sure that Maguire and Garfield have been signed for some roles in there. What roles, we don't know.
I do have a theory walking into that, too, when we come around to that.
Okay. So you have those. Charlie Cox has already been spotted on the set for Spider-Man 3, potentially as a role for Daredevil. As a role as Daredevil. Okay. I actually think that they're managing to keep it really under wraps, but I actually think that Vincent D'Onofrio is going to show up in that possible. Spider-Man.
Very possible.
I think it's going to be an introduction into bringing in Daredevil, Kingpin, Punisher, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones. I think it's going to be Right. I think it's going to be there because they just recently got those rights back. So I think Spider-Man and then She-Hulk is going to be one of the first introductions into that. Then you get to Doctor Strange. I think this is where we're going to see our first Professor Xavier. I think this is where we're going to see our first Wolverine. I think this is where we're going to see our first Magneto. So
point that out again. Where do you think we're going to see that at?
In Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
Okay.
I think that's when we're going to get our first look at full-on mutants in the MCU.
Okay.
I think that Spider-Man Far From Home is going to be the introduction of a lot of the Marvel characters, and then a lot of the people from the Sony universe is where it's going to be. Yeah, I think we're going to be introduced to Venom in this one as a part of the Carnage. You know what I'm saying? Before we get the Venom Carnage movie next year, I think we're gonna see them show up there. I think there's gonna be 2 movies that are gonna set it off, and then a lot of the rest of it's gonna be taking place on Disney Plus.
Okay.
So what about yourself?
Okay.
That's pretty much my whole theory.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. I really like that idea. I think that's a really possible idea. Obviously, bringing in the Spider-Man villains for the Spider-Man movie would be a great idea. Bringing in Doctor Strange to bring in all of the Sony characters that have no connection with Marvel yet, easy move. That's a very that's almost a go-to sort of way to do it. Yep. Not a bad way of doing it, honestly. I would love to fucking see that. See, you notice something though. Spider-Man and Doctor Strange come out one after another.
Do they? Let me see. Is there a movie in between them?
I was going to say, nope, no. I was going to say, you can look back at that chart, but you'll see. The Spider-Man, and Doctor Strange come out.
There's Thor. Oh, no, you're right. Yeah, Spider-Man and Doctor Strange. Yeah, December to March. Yeah, okay. And then Thor.
So looking at it like that, bridging into what I'm going to say, that leaves a lot of room for new and interesting shit to be introduced at. Mm-hmm. There has been a lot of rumblings over the past few years of the Sinister Six being the next Spider-Man in some capacity. And I have heard, as obviously remember, we finished off the last Spider-Man movie with Vulture walking through and seeing Doc Ock's arms, Green Goblin's glider, and we had Mysterio, and obviously Mysterio got away, right?
Yeah.
Remember, Mysterio is a founding member of the Sinister Six. We have rumblings of characters like Kraven. And remember, who was another member of the Sinister Six a multiple time? Fucking Venom. And honestly, if they wanted to do this, they could do the story that they've done multiple times, where Venom is a part of the Sinister Six and then turns and sides with Spider-Man by the end of it. They can run that just as easily with how good of a fucking actor Tom Hardy is. You don't even need it to be Tom Hardy if you don't even want to run that type of story. Yeah. Venom being a sympathetic character doesn't necessarily need to absolutely be connected to Tom Hardy. No. So, I think there's a lot of Sinister Six things that we're going to see there. But here's my thing.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, Tom Holland was signed to 3 movies left, wasn't he?
I believe so.
And that was
Civil War.
No. Sorry. No. Okay, so I'm getting it wrong. So he finished Endgame, and remember, that's when everyone was like, "Oh my God, he's not going to be in Endgame," because that's when that big contract dispute came out, right?
Right.
And then after that point, they signed Tom Holland to 3 movies, right? One of those being Endgame. So we had 2 more movies, right?
Right.
And out of all of these, I think it's very easy to connect that he's probably going to be in the Doctor Strange movie, right?
Yeah.
And so I can honestly say, not just because, like, they're probably going to have a small connection in terms of story. I think only because, look, that's his contract is going to be up by 2022. That makes even more sense, right?
Yeah.
His 2 final movies are 2022 because of when Endgame came out and that contract was signed. That makes even more sense. That those would be his 2 final appearances as Spider-Man, right? And so I think it would be sensible that the untitled Spider-Man Far From Home sequel is likely a Sinister Six-based movie.
Sinister Six, which would make sense to bring in the extra Spider-Mans.
Obviously. And then, which is a storyline we've seen in Spider-Man comics multiple times, where Spider-Man defeats the Sinister Six with more Spider-Man.
With more Spider-Man, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, but bridging into that, you can obviously get right from there into Doctor Strange, where then we see Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, we see Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. But see, this does also leave an interesting gateway that I haven't talked about. What if that whole multiverse fuckery comes in the Spider-Man sequel, and that is the bridge into Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness? Because we could see the multiple Spider-Man appear in the Far From Home sequel, right? Well, and that would be the multiple Spider-Man gig again. But then at that point, we would have other founding members of the Sinister Six able to be now mixed with the mainline versions, with maybe Jamie Foxx's version of Electro, with remember the Lizard, Kurt Connors from the Amazing Spider-Man, who was another founding Sinister Six.
I thought Jamie Foxx was supposed to be returning as Electro in Spider-Man 3.
And that's what I'm saying. That's what I heard, right? And so it's all starting to come together a little bit, right? Maybe that whole cameo thing is in the Spider-Man movie or the Doctor Strange, and that could be the bridge, right?
No, I definitely see what you're saying. Like, and I think 100% what it is. Like, I think because to an extent, by default, Marvel has already established that the characters in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the characters on the Netflix series all exist in a separate universe that sits adjacent to the Avengers universe, the MCU. Yeah. So I think like it's very easy to start having events happen. Like they said, one of the best explanations I heard for introducing mutants into the MCU was the blip.
Yeah,
people came back from this cosmic event of interacting with with the Infinity Stones to develop mutant powers. Well, I think what also happened, in another way that you can explain it too, is that when they brought everybody back from the blip, which is something that had never been done before, they brought back people from other universes into their universe, and then there you have Daredevil. There you have, Luke Cage. There you have, they when they blipped everybody back, they didn't just blip back the people that were gone, but they blipped in new people from other universes.
They didn't erase, destroy. They transported.
Right.
Which could be an interesting idea going into that, right?
Right.
And walking that back to the House of M storyline, if I'm not mistaken, one of the lines going into that was she wanted to create a world where mutants were the dominant race. Because remember, that's Magneto's whole goal, remember?
Right.
Magneto doesn't want mutants to live in harmony with humans. He wants humans
mutants to rule,
like underlings to
right.
He wants them to be below them. And so, her reality warping abilities. That's one way to bring in mutants too. Seeing how you can literally she changed the reality here. She created reality here. Well, what's not her from doing something similar? Who's to say that Doctor Strange isn't containing her there, knowing that she can change reality? Now we're getting some real what if shit here, but she could more definitely like Doctor Strange could have easily been like, bitch, you're nuclear. Here's your pocket dimension. Have your fun. Get everything up in the 616.
No shit. But there's so many different areas that they can go. And then I think our questions about what they're going to do with the Black Panther character will be answered in the multiverse. In Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness.
Good Killmonger from the multiverse would be fucking awesome.
Yep. I'm also beginning to think that this Jane Foster's version of Thor, we're not going to get a similar. She may have the same backstory as the one for the comics, but we're not going to get that backstory when we're introduced to her. I think she's going to be.
Are they going to Captain Marvel her? Or they reduce the storyline to like the bare bones of it?
No, I don't think they're going to do that. I think what they're going to end up doing is she's going to have the same backstory. She's just going to have been a Thor that was pulled from another universe, where somehow, some way, whatever happened, and Jane Foster became Thor.
Yeah, because that version of Thor is from the universe reset, actually.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of possibilities with that.
But yeah, it looks like we got a really good lineup coming up soon of these movies, and then you add into all of that, you have there's talking about doing an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. reboot on Disney Plus. Now that Kevin Feige has full control of Marvel TV and Marvel movies, I think I think that we were in for it. We were in for it for a while, but man, Saint, I believe it was Saint, or it may have been my boy Jamil, brought up one of the best possible reasons to not recast T'Challa. All right. I thought he was trying to say that they should recast T'Challa, but then I started listening more to what he was saying. He was saying it's a reason not to. Disney still has their what if, whatchamacallit, coming up pretty soon. Right. They have their whole what if series coming up on Disney Plus. Well, before he passed away, Chadwick Boseman recorded his lines for the Black Panther character. So he's like, technically, why would you want to recast him when somebody else is when he's still being played by the original actor, for one more release?
Yeah, right.
I like that. Like I said, we've said it before here. I just think they should honor him by just never recasting T'Challa. You can bring in other characters. Other characters have held the mantle of Black Panther. You can bring in other characters. Just don't recast T'Challa.
You know what? You could easily, like, now bridging this into even more what if type of shit. Remember, who is T'Challa's wife in comic book canon?
Storm.
And what are we getting a merging of?
Mutants.
The X-Men universe, right?
Right.
So we could easily see their version of T'Challa being a completely different
person
with a different surname, so on and so forth. But I do like that way that it could lead to Killmonger having been the Black Panther.
Yeah.
Like, straight up, that would just probably be the safest way to go about it. But I agree, don't recast T'Challa. Even through that, I don't think it would be a good idea.
Yeah.
Like, don't
All
have
right.
this be called T'Challa. But one final thing, one final idea on this. This could be a multiverse madness mix through, but we could also be seeing Doom War. Because remember, as we see Secret Wars, what always happens when Secret Wars comes around and Planet Doom comes?
What's that?
All of the multiverses get mixed into one big fucking planet.
Okay. So they could be pulling kind of a Crisis on Infinite Earths type thing where they're reconsolidating all of the MCU into one planet. And then you introduce all these characters. All right, yeah.
Much like Crisis, you canonize them. You introduce them to the world and canonize them, right?
Right. Wow, that would be a smart one.
Final thought there, yeah.
All right, so that's the final thought on Marvel. I'm going to take one last second before we go, just talk about the most recent episode of Batwoman. It was pretty damn good. The main character's coming into her own in the Bat suit. She's starting to make adjustments of her own, and started to ask Mr. Fox if she could make an adjustment to the Batmobile, and he said no.
No.
The character is definitely becoming more likable. I think that they're definitely going with kind of an anti-hero type feel with Red Alice. I hope they continue to build with that. But the surprise at the end of this episode is one that I'm wondering where they're going with it. And it leaves me with the question of dun dun dun. Has the CW recasted Kate Kane? Because they're now saying she might be alive. Or has Ruby Rose decided to come back to the role for a couple more shots? We don't know. But that's what this episode left me wondering. So we'll see what happens. Tonight or tomorrow, we get Monday. No, today's Sunday. Yeah. So tomorrow we get new Black Lightning.
Oh, good
on the 8th. So I'll be talking about that for next week's episode. So, but let us go on ahead and take that commercial break or podcast promo break. And we'll be back to talk a little wrestling.
Yes, sir.
Right here on the Cheap Pop Podcast for Aces Presents Radio.
Interruption in progress. Now hijacking into ANS 2.0 immersion rig. Now simulating the amazing nerd show. Featuring comics.
And Batman's like, you're safe here and everything, but the Joker all of a sudden pulls out a gun and shoots himself.
Movies.
People fight with lightsabers. What the hell do you want? I mean, in every one of these movies, there's a lightsaber battle.
Yeah, no problem. I'm gonna rewatch it a million times.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, Give me something more.
Wrestling.
That would be awesome. Oh my god, just a monster. Fans would be like, holy, what the hell's going on? What happened to Jericho?
Horror.
It starts off like any other like home invasion type of story, and then it just goes crazy.
And more.
Hey, this is Christian.
Hey, this is Damon.
And we are the Amazing Nerd Show.
Make sure to download us on all your favorite podcast platforms.
So, what's up? Steve Fingerstyles here, the host of the podcast, spelled DA, of course. Tune in each and every week to hear what pisses me off, what angers me, what I make fun of, and of course, my crazy rants. I also have incompetent co-hosts, cool guests, and a silent producer that sucks. So what more do you need from a podcast? You can listen on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, SoundCloud, and the Pod Bros Network. Peace.
From the galactic depths of the comic book universe comes the ghosts of the stratosphere, ready to galvanize and energize your mind with the latest of comic book news and reviews. And why are you stopping me? Yes, that's much better. Hi, this is Andy Larson for Ghosts of the Stratosphere. Join me every week along with my co-hosts Rob Stewart and Chad Smith, as well as a cavalcade of fantastic comic book guests, as we dish out heaping helpings of the greatest and latest of comic book news and reviews. New shows posted every Tuesday with bonus shows every first Friday of the month. You can find us on iTunes and Stitcher under Ghosts of the Stratosphere, as well as on our website, www.gotstratosphere.com. Hope to see you soon, folks.
All right, and we are back, y'all. What is up? What is up? What is up? This is the part of the show where we get to talk wrestling. The two dudes in the ring getting it on, but not the way some of y'all like to get it on, just the way they're fighting. Let me tell you something, man. I'm gonna start this out by saying like this. I watched AEW the past few weeks. I hadn't caught up on AEW in about a month or so, but I watched it the past couple of weeks. I was entertained, but no more entertained than I was 6 months ago when it first started. It's a great product. I think WWE can show what happens when too much control over the talent. AEW can show you at times what can happen when the talent has too much control. Some of their stuff just, I'm not very huge. I'll be honest with you. I'm not very huge on the negative one thing. Like I was the first week or two it happened, but I'm really not trying to see this kid out there every single week interacting with grown men. Yeah, they're telling a wrestling story. Yes, it's all just wrestling, but all of these segments that they've had him in over the last few weeks should have all been given to us during the John Huber, Brody Lee tribute show, and then that should have been the end of it. I'm not saying forget about him because obviously you never do, but you know, because there's things like the Luke Harper tribute on the WWE Network. There's things like the New Day wearing their Brody Lee tribute, you know, which we never really touched on from the Royal Rumble.
Really cool. I didn't get to talk about it too yet, but yeah, really fucking awesome. Really well done.
You know, there are a million. Well, I'll say, but yeah, there's there's that feeling that this is just kind of going on a little too long. And I understand it's at a tribute to an amazing man, but it just feels like this is going on a little too long. With that said, I've enjoyed it. Like I've enjoyed the storylines that are being told. The wedding, like I'll give it like this. When they did the Kip Saban Penelope Ford wedding,
yeah.
When James Richards is it? Yeah. The guy that was doing that was being the priest.
Oh, James Mitchell, yeah. The old boy James Mitchell returning. Yeah.
But James, and he gets to the point where he's like, if anybody has any objections, and Miro's like, hey, no. Been down this road before. We're not doing that bullshit. Stop. Stop.
Say it.
Just get to the next part. We're gonna skip over that. And I'm like, yeah, okay, Rusev, if I'd have went through what you went through,
Rusev said never again. Never again.
But I like the way that segment kind of played out with Orange Cassidy and what's his name finally getting his freedom from Miro and all that. But once again, just it gives me the feel from storylines to in-ring work to going to a wrestling school and watching the show that they put on every weekend, more than it feels like the big time feel that a lot of AEW fans want to feel like it is. Even though, let me give credit where credit's due. Kenta showing up after the main event. God. Oh Jesus! But okay,
wait, no, are you aware of the context behind that?
Yes, it's over it's over the IWGP United States Championship, isn't it? Because didn't Moxley
Kenta has had an opportunity on that title waiting for like a year and a half now, dude. He earned that chance like 2019, dude. Kenta left WWE and went to New Japan, right? And John Moxley was already IWGP US champion by the time that Kenta came through and joined Bullet Club. And so right as COVID hit, John Moxley, who obviously lives in the United States, can't travel to Japan to defend his IWGP United States Championship.
Right.
And fucking travel there. And so Kenta more or less was like, all right, fuck you then, I'll come to you.
Yeah, no shit. Well, they said
showed up in a completely different promotion with his fucking briefcase from New Japan. I'm here for the belt, mate.
Well, here's the thing about it is like they said that this is establishing a new working relationship between New Japan, Impact, and AEW, which I like. But here's the thing. I'm going to say this, and I know I'm going to sound like a little bitch. Why? Because I say that LeBron fans sound like a little bitch when they say that. So what you're telling me is, man, is that these three had to team up to have a shot at beating WWE, huh? These three had to team up to have a shot. Like,
have a chance at it.
I don't know what you're saying here, but you guys
had to make the new territories just to stand a chance. Marks, no, I feel it. It's funny. That's funny. No, yeah, I've actually heard of that. You know, a lot of people online are talking about giving it an official name and all that, which in face value is pretty cool. That would be cool having a working relationship again, right? I don't anticipate it though. Yeah, I don't expect, and especially considering WWE pretty much has SmackDown and Raw rolling right now. At this point, like I said, I love the main event. I'm getting kind of over the whole Kenny Omega thing. Like, I'm beginning to think, like, no offense to him, but I wouldn't have been a fan of the cleaner gimmick in New Japan had I watched it, or maybe there's just something missing from the gimmick in AEW. Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think you're seeing the full version of it. I think like this is a pretty true to it, but it's not exactly the same. This version is a little bit more, I'm not gonna say conceited, but it revolves around the fact that Kenny knows he's as good as he is. And is like relishing in it 110%, whereas the cleaner gimmick was him sort of making his name for himself as that best balance. You know, it was structured a little bit differently, and it was a lot more like malicious and angry and violent. But it's okay. But you're right; it isn't like the full capacity of the cleaner gimmick. But I think you would have if you saw the original version. I think so.
Okay. Well, that gives me a little bit of hope because, like I said, this version that's going on now, I don't know, but
yeah.
But it here's the thing: unless you're going to tell me that somebody's going to walk out of a pay-per-view soon, the AEW / Impact / New Japan heavyweight champion, you know, like. What is this really doing other than saying, okay, these guys can just
trade superstars?
Yeah, pretty much. But I had forgotten, to be honest with you, when Kenta showed up in AEW, I had forgot that WWE had released him and he went back to Japan. Like I was like,
WWE working relationship? What?
We're doing what? Are we doing
Bullet Club
that?
shirt.
But then when I started doing the reading, I was like, oh yeah, they let him go a while ago. They weren't really going to ever do anything with his character, and I doubt he was ever going to reach the capacity, not because he wasn't a popular character, just because he didn't really fit the mold of what Vince sees as a WWE champion. Great in-ring worker, but Vince likes the big guys. Damian Priest, despite some of his Damian Priest is one that I could see him winning some titles, but purely because Vince would want to push him to the moon because of it. Exactly.
Let's bridge into that now. There's been a lot of things that have been cool happening in AEW. Tag division is always as fire as it always is. Can't really knock that. Eddie Kingston is cool as shit. I do like the tag match of Kenta and Kenny versus Lance Archer and John Moxley coming up, just because John Moxley and Lance Archer are pretty fucking cool. And also because there's the idea that Kenta came in and was like, look, bro, I didn't hit him in defense of you, Ken. You're not even Bullet Club anymore. Fuck you, mate. Which is cool. and I do like how Tama Tonga has that thing where he's like really, really shooting on Nick Jackson on Instagram. But so that's all brewing up and that's all cool. But let's bridge into some dub. So, going back into Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest being brought up, we didn't really talk about it very much, but the more that I've brewed on it, I think I realize it's not a good idea.
Why is that?
I think NXT isn't in the place to lose those two stars right now. I think, and I don't think Rhea Ripley is in that position yet, because as we know, like, okay, I don't use this term a lot, and I hate using it because Marks love to use it in every fucking sentence. But Rhea Ripley was flat out buried. Buried.
Yeah.
Flat out. She was buried at WrestleMania.
By Charlotte Flair, yeah.
By Charlotte Flair. And then Charlotte lost the belt by not even getting fucking pinned because Io beat Rhea for it. So Rhea ate the pin fucking twice just to have her pay her dues. Like, no, you stopped all of her momentum and you ruined all that shit. And she has literally gone on record talking about how it annihilated her self-confidence from it, which is fucking sad because she was such a good thing going on there. And you can't say that after Mania, Rhea has more or less been a bit dry since then.
Yeah. Like, or non-existent.
Or if she's even fucking there, right?
Exactly.
And there you have Priest, on the other hand, who is very successful and very good at this, but I don't have faith he's going to be used well. Obviously, it's like, oh, it's not because he's from NXT. It's because, look, dude, if your plan is to inject this dude into the main roster so that he can be accepted by the Latino community by setting him alongside Bad Bunny, it's like, stop. Don't give me the Bad Bunny WrestleMania match. I'm sorry. Like, okay, look, I was happy about the Booker T gimmick song. That was pretty cute. But you're going too far now. I don't want Bad Bunny at Mania with Priest.
Told you.
Because I know Priest is... this is no knock to Priest. Priest is an indie guy, bro.
Yeah. Priest
is an indie guy. And he is damn good at being an indie guy. And that's why he fits so well in NXT.
Amen.
This goes all the way roundabout to the thing we always talk about with the crowds, and you got to play to the right crowd, and you have to do the right thing. And I'm sorry, but straight up, the main roster is not to Damian Priest's style. And so I'm afraid about how this is going to look. And I don't have a lot of faith in it, if I'm being honest. But that isn't a measure of Priest, but it's a measure of how they handle NXT call-ups.
Can I be honest?
Go ahead. Shoot.
I don't think they booked him well
in the Rumble. I don't think I was about to say that too. I don't think the way he was used in the Rumble was even a very good foretelling of what this is going to look like.
Yeah, exactly. Like I don't think they booked him very well in NXT, because I think he should have been one of the ones that at some point during his tenure, he should have been NXT champ, not just in the hunt. He should have eventually won the NXT championship.
He was North American champion, but I could say, yeah, he had the chops to be a monster heel for the world championship. He should have been given the push that Karrion Kross was given.
Yes. I'll
put it that way. He would have been a better menacing champ for that time being. It would have been better built. It would have had a better setup for the time being that he was there, and I think, looking back on it, the Rumble was good in a lot of ways, but it didn't really have a lot of high spots. It came down to people coming and doing something, and then they like fade off into the background a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's more or less what happened to Priest. He sort of faded into the background after he came in. And yeah, he had that cool point where he tossed out Miz and Morrison. Okay, he tossed out Miz and Morrison at the exact same time, which was admittedly pretty cool, right? Obviously, over someone like Miz, you can expend Miz to get Priest over a little bit.
And
but okay, anything else that happened?
Now, okay, I will have to give credit where credit is due. AEW had a pretty great Rumble moment during their whole tag team Rumble thing. When I think it was dude from Private Party, goes up to the top rope, and jumps off the top rope, and everybody that's in the center that would normally turn around and like catch him, and everybody falls down, just moved out the way, and he belly flopped into the center of the ring, and then they just went back to fighting each other.
So fucking funny. Yeah, there are cool moments like that, right?
But overall, I'll say overall I enjoy. I'm waiting to see, and I think wherever they put Rhea Ripley at, because she hasn't debuted on SmackDown or Raw yet.
Yeah, no, she's Raw. She's on Raw. She's on Raw.
When did she debut? Did I miss something on this week's Raw?
I think you're the one that told me she debuted on Raw. Remember?
No. Priest debuted on Raw. Ripley hasn't debuted yet.
I've heard that she's already. Oh wait, no, you're right. No, I'm tripping. No, yeah, okay. Priest debuted on Raw for sure. Rhea Ripley currently has no brand, which is even worse because that just gives me the idea that they have no plans for Ripley going forward.
Right.
It is even worse than having a bad plan.
Well, I'm thinking like we may see her either after the next pay-per-view or within the next couple of weeks.
I think we can predict to see her doing something after Mania.
Yeah. I think she will. But I'm going to say this. Right. Wherever she goes, she better be immediately in the title picture. Because she deserves that strong of a push coming onto the main roster.
Now watch, she's going to be she's going to form she's going to get to the main roster and like form a tag team with Carmella or some shit and go for the tag title or some stupid shit. Sorry,
go ahead. No, go ahead.
No. I'm going to lead into a whole nother segment for NXT. What's up now?
I was going to say, I would love to see her and Bianca Belair go at it for the SmackDown Women's title after WrestleMania. Like immediately launch her into that picture, and her and Belair can put on match and a half.
I would give up a lot of things to see that match at Mania. It's such a good match. I could imagine that.
But what were you going to take us to next, sir?
Now, going into NXT, the last few weeks of NXT have been fucking awesome. Straight up. Again, much like the G1, the G1 comes around for New Japan. Everybody perks their ears up. You got to get ready because you're going to see some good ass wrestling. And you're always going to see some good ass wrestling in the G1, right?
Yeah.
NXT Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic for me has become the American that. Because the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic comes around, I don't know about you, but it's like next 5 weeks, going to get some good ass matches. And it's been that since it started. And I don't know about you, but I don't know if you're completely caught up, but Tommaso Ciampa and Timothy Thatcher have formed an odd couple tag team from their feud.
Yeah, brother.
Classic. And
I call them the Submission Bros.
Good. It's so good.
Hell yeah.
I'm so into that.
To me, it's a modern day Chris Benoit and Kurt Angle if they were a tag team. It's like that. Both of those dudes, two bad motherfuckers that could break every bone in your body if they chose to in a myriad of different ways.
I dig that.
Or if you even want to go back further, Dean Malenko and Chris Benoit when they actually were a tag team.
Yeah. Much like back in the day, you hear the APA theme start, so someone's gonna get their shit fucked up good.
Oh yeah, brother. One of my favorite APA shirt though is one that said, instead of saying Acolyte Protection Agency, said APA, always pounding ass, and I'm like,
Always
dude,
pounding ass.
like
That's hella fucking funny.
you might want to think that one through there, brother. Like, because that could mean a lot of different things.
Connotations, man.
Yes. But no, I do like where NXT is going. This is something that I wanted to address with these weekly little IWC AEW fans. Guys, if you watch, it's called a pattern. It's not called theft. It's called a pattern. Last year, the Women's Royal Rumble winner went to Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. The men stuck with Raw because he was going after Brock Lesnar. This year, now we're seeing the men go to NXT, SmackDown and Raw, and
choose. And then we're seeing the woman say, literally, "You're the one."
Right, and she's stepping in with Sasha. So it's called a pattern. Like, people are like, oh, they just only brought Edge to NXT because they wanted ratings because they're losing. And I'm like, no, pattern, guys. They were going to bring Edge to NXT regardless.
You know what the funniest part about that shit is?
What?
Going to NXT was Edge's idea. It wasn't Vince's. It wasn't Triple H's. It wasn't Shane's. It was fucking Edge's.
Yep.
After he won the Rumble, he personally was like, okay, wait. They wanted him to go into this and face Randy Orton at Mania. Mm-hmm. So they gave off the finale of that feud on free TV, on that one where Alexa Bliss did that little bloody viscous out the fucking mouth and all that shit. Right? All that shit, right? That was the cap off to that. And the plan was to have Edge go in and fight Orton for Mania. But now Edge was like, no. Let me pitch you something different. And I don't know what the idea was, but I know going to NXT, having that confrontation with Finn, with Cross, and then having the confrontation on SmackDown and Raw, this is all Edge's plan. This is all his increasing authority on his storyline, which I enforce because he's doing good shit. What else he said otherwise is fucking wrong. This is not the case of old grizzled Edge getting a chance because he's WWE's golden boy 15 years ago. Right. No, Edge is still working at a very high fucking rate right now. And it would be unfair for me to sit here and be like, oh, this is the best Randy Orton has ever been in 5 years. And then for me to look at Edge and then say something completely different because it's not fair.
It's not. And that's the whole thing with what you're saying is that here's the deal. Here's the thing that people need to get through their heads. When you go out and you prove yourself to Vince will listen to what you have to say. When you go out, I'm going to repeat that again for those idiots in the back. When you go out and you prove yourself to Vince, meaning you take the character that he gives you and you get that character over, and you
golden here, make Vince money.
Exactly. You make Vince money. Vince will allow you to slowly but surely take a little bit of control. Now, will he ever at any point give the type of leeway that he gave to the guys in the Attitude Era? No, I doubt Vince will ever do that again. No one is
ever going to have the power Steve Austin.
Right.
The power that Steve Austin and Hogan did, where they were literally like, no, I will not work with you. Yes, I will work with you. Levels of case by case. No, I don't think we're ever going to see that again. And honestly, I don't even think we're ever going to be able to see that even from someone like Rogan.
Right. So, but I believe, and here's the reason why I said when Dean Ambrose, aka Jon Moxley, left WWE, he left because he was done. Not because they're such a horrible company. He was done. He was just done. Because
remember the key phrase that he said was, they're really gonna make me give up all this fucking money because they won't write me good material.
Right. And I think that at that point, where it was a thing where I say it wasn't his fault, it wasn't WWE's fault, is that unfortunately, despite the fact that he had made Vince a lot of money, it took Roman a few more years of being a I'll do whatever company guy before Roman started getting more say into his character. So you would think that Dean Ambrose would have probably been on a similar track to where by now, if he had stayed with WWE and re-upped, he'd probably have a lot more say about the Dean Ambrose character. But he didn't want to wait and put in the extra time. Some may say it's unfair, man. It's unfair. Vince is old. He's out of touch. But you got to remember, for everything that you hate about WWE on the main roster that you say is Vince, for everything that you like, most likely Vince had a hand in that too. There's very little outside of NXT that Vince doesn't have his hand in. Like people are under this impression that now that Triple H is at Vince's side, that he's running more to show than Vince is. And that's just not true. Vince is still the one at Gorilla calling out decisions and making changes in the middle of Monday Night Raws.
As of recently, it's been online.
Right.
Mac's brother, right? But yeah, you're right. Vince still has the go-say on literally everything. And I am of the idea that Vince should relegate his works and what he does in his jobs to multiple different people by now. If I'm being completely honest, the entirety of WWE as a fucking company should be in the responsibility of Shane, Steph, and Triple H as a trio, not on one human being, because they all three present very different things. No. Shane has, I don't care what anybody says, he may not be the best writer, and he may not be the best wrestler. You know, he's definitely not the best wrestler in the world, despite the award.
Right.
But Shane does have a lot of value in marketing, in entertainment, in sponsors, in investors. All of those things are Shane's expertise. Stephanie is something very similar, but in many different ways. And whereas you have Triple H, on the other hand, who, as we've talked about multiple times, brings in the knowledge from being in the position of the superstar. And that's why NXT is as successful as it is, surviving off of Triple H's rule, not just because of the isolated environment, but because it's led by someone who understands what it's like to be in the exact shoes that they're in, paying their dues, working their way up, training this and that, working their way up the card. Remember, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, blue collar, bowing. you get the whole gimmick. You had to work.
No, I feel you.
Work his way up just like they did, right?
Yep. Now, of course, his path was accelerated by the fact that he started fucking the owner's daughter. Like, let's not be. I'm not sure about that. Yeah, like let's not deny the truth on that one. You know, yeah, like, but yes, at the end of the day, you were 100% correct.
Like we've said, man, you know, there's the joke that women bang their ways into companies, but this is a male-oriented sport, and the man currently next in line for crown of the most influential wrestling company on the face of this planet banged his way to the top.
Pretty much.
That's not to say he's not a good wrestler, but he literally did. He literally banged his way into the top. He affared his way into the top.
And don't get me wrong, like you said, I am in no way saying that this man is not a great mind. Look at NXT. NXT is his baby, and NXT is by, you know what I'm saying? So the man has a mind for wrestling. He was a great in-ring tactician. He created the character, the game during the Attitude Era.
Generation fucking X.
You know, so like, yeah, at the end of the day, Triple H is a mastermind, but make no doubt about it. There's no guarantee he is where he is as far as being Vince's right-hand man if he's not banging Stephanie. Like, you, and what now hear me out when I say this. I'm not just saying just because he was laying the pipe to the boss's daughter.
The billionaire princess, right?
Right. That's the only reason. I'll tell you why that link is why he is where he is. He got to go over to Vince's house during off time and hang out. He got to go bend the.
I talked about it on the show before, actually. Remember what I said? I don't know if I talked about it, but Rob Van Dam talked about it in an interview. Shane came up to him and he was like, "You're really successful and you're real good, but you got to do one thing."
What's that?
Form a relationship with my father.
Yep. And that's what Tripp did.
And RVD took offense to that at first. He was confused. He didn't get it. And he was like, "No, but later on, I got it." Because what did Triple H do? What did Steve Austin do? Mm-hmm. What did Undertaker do? What did Hulk Hogan do?
Yep. And if you look at who Vince looked out for, it's those guys that formed a relationship with him. Now, here's the thing about it, is the way I look at it, and a lot of people look at me like I'm crazy for saying this, but the way I would look at it is this. You want the key to the wrestling world, you got to talk to the angry giant. Vince is probably, from what I've heard as a human being, he's not exactly an easy guy to get along with. He's not exactly an easy guy to like. Yeah. Okay, unless you're a Make-A-Wish kid, like Vince is not exactly an easy guy to like.
Mercy. Right.
So if you can find a common ground with this guy, it can open up doors for you. I had a similar experience working with restaurants. Told you guys about this before. If you listened to the show before, that I've worked for one of a restaurant manager that was probably one of the most racist people you'll ever meet. Like, just would make comments to me that would make you want to slap him. But I learned something very early on in dealing with him, despite my lack of like for him as a human being. The man had a lot to teach me. And as far as being a restaurant manager and how to handle things and how to handle employees and so on and so forth, a lot of good information to give me. So because of that, I tolerated a lot of his comments and a lot of his little side things. There was a certain point, and this is what allowed me to respect him at the end of the day. There was a certain point in which he had made this comment to me about being ghetto. I forget what the specific comment was. It was about 20 some odd years ago. So forgive my memory on that. But he made a comment. I looked at him and I was like, look, man, you ever talk to me like that again? And I swear to God, things will not be good. Job or not, I don't give a fuck. Things will not be good. And he was like, all right. I was just joking. And he kind of laid off on the comments, at least around me. But it caused me to develop a little bit of respect because he understood boundaries. He understood that despite the fact that me and him may not see each other mentally, see the same thing mentally, or as far as how we see the world, that he saw the potential for a good restaurant manager in me and decided to try to flourish that regardless and cut that. You know what I'm saying? Cut that negative, that racism, that stupid shit part of it, and just taught me. And I like I said, in the 3-4 years I worked with him, I learned more about being a restaurant manager than I did the entire almost 10 years that I was one. So, but Vince maybe be the same thing. Vince may not be a good human being, but knowing Vince and being on Vince's good side can benefit you in your career a lot.
That does. I appreciate you sharing that. That gives a testament to a level of open-mindedness, not in the way that you're going to hear different ideas, but it's the way you think from your perspective. Like, am I going to let this stop me from practicing, from forging more knowledge, from collecting something from this? I could still gain from something from this as a man, as a worker, right? Yep. That's a really good way to walk into it. And obviously, you'll notice a lot of the same thing when it comes to the people who have a relationship with Vince. It's a lot of people who have to approach that with the same level of open-mindedness, with the same level of this person may not communicate the same way as me, but there's a lot to be gained here. Obviously, you see that in people like AJ Styles, who is very clearly very outspoken about the way things are in the company and the way things that happen affect him. And obviously, how much he fucking hates Paul Heyman. But in doing so, and in forging a relationship, and in being honest, you can see that he has worked his way up in WWE exponentially faster than other people who have come up through New Japan, through Ring of Honor, through TNA. And it's because he approached it from that way, I'm sure. And that's why you hear a lot of people say that. Why does Vince trust AJ with the title so much? Because AJ's got a great fucking relationship with Vince.
Yep.
They consider themselves to be friends. Yep. And that's something that AJ has benefited massively. And I think that's why I'm not going to say like, oh, Vince is biased. Yeah. But, AJ's that's what has given him the trust from Vince. And you'll notice one last thing before I let you go into this. If you've ever seen the videos of when a lot of people first get the world title, when they come back to Gorilla, they approach Vince, people like The Miz, people like Balor, a lot of people when they very first get their chance at the championship, you can audibly approach Vince and say, thank you for trusting me with this. I'm not going to let you down.
Let you down. Exactly.
Because it's not just about, oh, you're holding the title, you're a good worker. It's, I have to trust you with the mantle of this.
What will you represent? And like that goes from the smallest indie promotion all the way up to the major leagues in WWE. Like, so you have to be somebody that they believe can carry the company in order to win a championship.
You're the name on the poster.
Yeah. And so with that said, I will say this. There are people who just said, fuck it. I'm not even going to try to get along with Vince. Fuck it. And their career stalled, and they have a tendency to blame this or that or this. But the bottom line is, like, and a lot of actual wrestlers would disagree with me on this, but I just feel like it's your job to get the gimmick over. No matter how shitty of a gimmick they give you, it's your job to get the gimmick over. And you can't tell me it can't be done, because I watched Damian Sandow take some of the shittiest gimmicks I've ever seen in my fucking life
and make it the funniest shit on that given show,
and become one of the most popular characters in WWE. In WWE history to an extent. Not popular because he was liked like The Rock or John Cena at his peak, but just popular because people got it that, dude, the gimmick they gave you is retarded, but you are really working it. Yeah. Like, you're a fucking stunt double who doubles doing the wrestler that's in the ring's move while you're standing outside the ring. When I saw him take that bump.
When you say it like that, it sounds so flat and so dry. But then when you see it, it's genuinely the most hysterical fucking shit, because Sandow is that good at making it fucking comical. He's that good at playing into it. I like to call it the R-Truth effect.
Yes.
You can give him some retarded shit and he'll still make you laugh. And they literally, him and Paul Heyman literally had a challenge where it was like, okay, make Brock laugh. And he won. And he succeeded.
And so it's a thing where people have to stop trying to tell the wrestling world what is getting over and start trying to appreciate what these guys are out here trying to do. If you see somebody's trying to work a bad gimmick, then give it to them. That them getting that gimmick over may be the difference between them winning a world championship 3 days down the line and them being stuck in the mid card. So support it. Help these guys out. You support our truth. Support the new guys.
I look back on stories like Chris Jericho. His first gimmick ever given to him. They were like, okay, you're going to be a cowboy. You're going to be Cowboy Chris Jericho. Jericho calls his trainer and he was like, they want me to be Cowboy Chris Jericho. What do I do about this? Help me, God. He's like, tell him no. Tell him you're not going. So that's what he does, and he tells them no, and he tells them he's not going to. And he's just, I don't remember if he just was Chris Jericho at that point or if he made something else, but I know he wasn't Cowboy Chris Jericho. And there are things like that where I admire the testament to your will and your ability to see something specific through. Yeah. But that's different, because I also admire people like Tyler Breeze, who outspokenly go out online and talk about how annoying it is that wrestlers constantly go online and bitch and complain about the places that they got themselves into, and then get mad when they're told to do things like it's not a normal job too. And Tyler Breeze literally has said, like, I'm here to work with what they give me to work with.
Yep. Well,
despite how much, real quick, he's been there since 2014, 2013.
Oh yeah.
Won his first fight, his first title. The only gold this man has ever touched was in 2020 when he won the tag team championships, the NXT tag.
With him and Fandango, yeah.
He has been out of developmental for 6 years, and then goes back into developmental, and that's when he wins his first title, and that's the dude still going online and telling people to work with what they're told to work with. The guy who didn't get any TV time for almost years. And that to me is just a testament of respect for what you do, right?
No, 100%. And see, I see it a lot from the same way that Tyler Breeze sees it, in that you work with what you're given, no matter how shitty the gimmick is. But no, I've made this point before, and this is a thing that's gotten me into an argument with other people. It's kind of like Jon Moxley. So there were several other people that left WWE around that same time, and all of them said the same thing. Well, fuck creative, they weren't letting me do what I wanted to do, blah, blah, blah. I can remember as far back as the late 90s, early 2000s, the late Attitude Era, right into the, what was it called? The Ruthless Aggression Era. I remember people leaving WWE and bitching about how creative didn't really give them the freedom and control that they wanted anymore, because that's what they had when they were during the Attitude Era.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course.
To me, it's become this trope now that when you leave WWE, it's the thing to do to go on a podcast and say, "Oh, it's WWE creative."
Fuck Vince, fuck creative, fuck.
Yeah, it was all their fault. I've never once heard a wrestler go, "You know what? I didn't really put my all into that gimmick they gave me, maybe because I didn't want it or whatever, but I really didn't put my all, so I never got the gimmick over, and it just was a downward spiral from there." Because it's you knew going into working at WWE how they worked. You knew they had scripted promos. You knew they controlled a lot of the characters and how the characters acted, so on and so forth. You knew all of this before you signed on the dotted line, and you signed anyway. I'm 100% sure that once you got in and found out, you didn't stop cashing those checks that were being deposited in your account. Okay, and I'm pretty sure you didn't send any of that money back. Mm-hmm. So why bitch about it now? Why not just leave it at, it just didn't work out?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It's different when, Miro Rusev leaves because of a storyline like that for me. It's different when there are very specific circumstances. But when, there are other cases too that are clear exceptions when you have people like Eric Young and Luke Harper who really did try, who really did, who tell very vivid stories of spending 6-7 weeks every week presenting new ideas, shot down, present a new idea, shot down, talk to this person, collaborate, present a new idea, shot down. Weeks, months even. I understand it's not that easy. I get that. And I get things like that. But you have people like, obviously, let's run through here. People like Kona Reeves. I'll just spit it off. Kona Reeves is a fucking dork. Kona Reeves, as I've heard on the outside, doesn't have a tendency to be a nice person. And so I'm just very openly critical of his shit. And I'm just gonna say he has benefited nothing from working at probably the best training center on the face of this planet.
The Performance Center,
which is, or the Capitol Wrestling Center. Call it what you want, but it is probably, there are good wrestling schools, but you can't say that it isn't an automated, well-oiled machine of a wrestling center. And people like Kona Reeves haven't really benefited from that. And so I'm guessing when something happens, he's going to go bitch and complain that it's not his fault. And so I understand exactly what you mean. Yeah. I feel it.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Last thing. Nah, there ain't no last thing. I ain't really got nothing else on my list. Do you, sir?
No, sir. That's it for me. Yeah.
So that looks like it is it for us this week, y'all. Y'all get a short episode this week. But tune in next week with us. We're going to be talking some NXT. So we do have NXT, the new TakeOver Vengeance coming next week. So why don't we just give a prediction for the NXT title match right quick, because that'll probably be on around the next time that we're doing the show. I think Balor retains, because as much as I love Dunn, I think that WWE is not ready for him to take over that NXT title quite yet.
I agree. I think Balor has fallen into a very interesting position because as of right now, I'm hearing a lot of rumblings that Cross is actually going to be maybe going up to the main roster. And I don't know about you, but I expected Cross to come off of injury and then murder Balor, take that belt back at
the end. Right. Then maybe in a few months.
And I've been waiting for it I've been waiting on it any minute now, right? But right now, it's looking like they might be banking on Balor as a long-term champion. And that's very good because they need to keep this thing going right now. Okay, look, man, I've said it before. Short-term championship reigns are shit. Hot potatoing the championship between Black, Ciampa, and Gargano was the worst choice that they ever made with that belt. All of those should have been a lot longer. Having Adam Cole hold it that long was perfect. If it went a day longer, it would have been bad. But they ended it right on the perfect mark, and they couldn't have done better with that long-term title reign. They need to keep this up because that adds prestige to it. And if they want something that's going to rival the IWGP Championship, and they want something that's going to rival something as thick and hefty as that 30-pound AEW hunk of fucking gold championship, right? They need to keep this prestige up going. And so that's my long way of saying that belt's staying on Balor, I think.
There you go. So those are our predictions for NXT Vengeance. Like I said, be sure to join us next Sunday. Be sure to join me on Saturday on YouTube and Friday night on Double KK Double Network on Spreaker for Double K's Classroom. We'll be reviewing today's Super Bowl 50. I got Tom Brady winning it in my prediction. We'll see what happens.
Yep.
A lot of people didn't like that prediction, but fuck them is what I say. Fuck them, that's why.
It's not a prediction that I like, but is it inevitable?
Yeah. So other than that, join us then, and keep tuning in to 4 Aces Presents Radio Network. We'll talk to y'all soon. Any last words, Alpha?
Oh, you know how it goes, my people. We're now back again, once again on YouTube, in the visual and much more clear than before, hopefully, right? Wonderful day. And by God Almighty, stay safe. Wash your fucking hands, my people. My people.
My people.